Welcome. My name is Barbara Marcum, and I'm the Director of Senior Resources for the City of Westland. With me today, this is a special treat for me, I have Mayor Wild here as my guest. Thank you, Mayor, for taking time out of your very busy day to be here today.
Well, thank you, Barb, and it's an honor to be on your show. I'm an avid watcher, and so I'm excited to join you today.
Well, I have done a lot of educational things, and so I thought, you know what? A lot of people, like with Wayne County Sheriff's Department, they're really not clear about what the Sheriff's Department does. And I thought this is really important because as being the leader in the city, it's very important that people understand your job. And I was thinking about mayors, and where mayor is just maybe a figurehead and they have a city manager who runs the city. And then I was thinking, so people don't always know what you do every day. I've worked with you for a decade, and I remember the first time I sat in a staff meeting with you, and everyone sitting around the table, all the department heads, and you said, remember, we are here as public servants. Our residents come first. And I thought in my head, thumbs up to that, because that's exactly the way I feel as well. You know, that we do have a job that we do every day, but when it comes down to it, people are most important. So let's talk about your job as mayor. And some of the things and the crises that you faced being mayor, and how you go about solving these big problems, because usually when they come as a city, they're not one person's problems, they are hundreds of people's problems. So tell me a little bit about what you faced as mayor.
Well, you know, I was talking with our fire chief, Jim Morris, the other day, and he's the city's emergency manager, and he's been helping the city manage a couple different crises. And as we were talking, you know, I told him is that, you know, since I took over as mayor in 2007, I feel like as a city, we just kind of go from one crisis to the other. And so I told him that when my days here are done, I was going to start a business, crisis management. I'm going to call it City of Westland Incorporated. But so, you know, Barb, it's been a lot of fun. We've had a lot of crises, you know, in the very beginning, when we first talked about the first staff meeting, we had the whole staff around the table, and at the time the crisis was Central City Park. You know, my first day in office, we put a fence around the park, and our staff went to work, and we said we're gonna get this fixed, and we worked hard, and we did. And you know, over my tenure, we've had a lot of different crises. You know, we've dealt with, you know, flooded basements and power outages, and you know, extreme weather, and you know, we've had you know, we've worked through some civil unrest that was facing the country, and we've always had kind of one issue or the other. And over the course of the years, you know, the city's made a few mistakes, but I think we've always stepped up and we made it right. And you know, it's a pleasure. We encourage people to call the mayor's office, because you know, I'm here every day, and it's you know, Westland mayor is a full-time job, and we have a great team. And while we do deal a lot with crisis management, I think what separates good government is the government that can still get things done and make progress, even if there is a crisis at the time.
I absolutely agree. You know, we had a joint meeting with another city, and all our staffs were together, and a lot of the people were saying, well, you know, we'll talk to you and we'll give you a call in a month or something. That's not what our department heads do. Right. Working for you, it's like when we have an assignment or we talk about something and this is what we need to do, you expect us to go out and hit the pavement. You don't mean next week. You mean in a half an hour. I expect you to go out and do what I asked you to do. I think overall, hitting a problem head on, and I've noticed with you, when something happens in the city, you are on it immediately, not tomorrow, not next week, that this is part of your process in the way that you do things. Why is it important to jump in there right away, and how do you organize what to do first?
Well, I've learned the hard way over the years is if you don't get in front of a problem in the beginning, it only gets worse. You know, my past history as a small business owner, I think, probably prepared me the best for that, because as a small business owner, when something happens in your company, you know, in the company that I had, you know, we had fires, and we had you know, employees that that passed away, key employees, and we lost employees. I mean, we always had an issue, and you got to jump on top of it because otherwise your business would suffer. And I kind of brought that mindset into the mayor's office, and we try to jump on it. And what I think that we've gotten better at now is, as I enter I think this is my 15th year as mayor, we're a lot better at seeing what the issues are going to be before they get here. I kind of call that, seeing looking over the forest to see some of the trees that are coming your way. And Barb, you know that we've gone through in my tenure a lot of different department heads. Probably early on we had a lot of changeover because, like you said, we're busy, we're active, and everybody wears a lot of different hats. And over the course of my tenure, we've replaced people that didn't understand that, and they weren't accountable, and they couldn't handle crisis, they couldn't handle progress. So I think we've settled in. We've got a really good staff. We have a nice mixture with experience and with youth, and we've sprinkled some talented people that we're developing. So we have a great team, and it's a team effort. And one of the things that I love about you, Barb, is you work in a different building, but when we put the call up, I mean, you're here at City Hall, and most recently, one of the things that impressed me the most with the way you handle yourself is when we were scheduling vaccinations for COVID vaccinations, we were doing that. You were working in my office in my conference room, and I was at one end of the table, you were at the other end of the table, and I was listening to you interact with the public, and you just put so many people at ease, and it's not really what your job is, but at that point, that's what we needed you to do, and you did, and you pretty much led our effort, so you did a great job.
Well, I have speaking of that, thank you for the compliment. I love what I do, and I love people. And I think when you're in public service, you have to love people. But one great thing as far as leadership goes, I think it takes a strong leader to be able to say, and you've given me the autonomy to develop my job and prioritize the things that I feel are important, which has given me a lot of leeway I'm not just the director of the senior resources. I like to do a lot of other things and help people who are in a crisis. So you have allowed me to do that. I don't know how much autonomy that you have in your own job, and have you been able to taper your job like I have been able to do? And I'm just curious about that. You're involved in a lot of different communities and talk with a lot of different mayors. Let's talk a little bit about that and why that's important.
As I moved into my second and third terms, we had an established team in place. The city was making progress in a lot of different fronts, but a couple of different things happened. One is I think as Washington became more dysfunctional, and for a certain period of time, I think people would agree that the state government was becoming dysfunctional. I think a lot of the issues that were previously settled at the federal level or the state level were now landing on our doorstep, and I think my job as mayor has changed a lot over the years because, early on, I think people would say, well, mayors are making sure that the garbage is picked up, the street lights are on, and everybody's happy. But now, we're handling a lot of national issues and state issues at the local level now. And, the issues that affect Westland, I mean, we're not on an island by ourselves. They're the same issues that are affecting cities all across Wayne County, all across the state, and a lot of instances across the nation. So I've tried to position Westland to be at the table at as many of these, what I think, things that add value. I'm active with the U.S. Conference of Mayors. I've been active with the Michigan Municipal League. There's other groups, the Conference of Western Wayne and SIMCOG, and I kind of put myself where I think where Westland needs to be at the time. And I've learned, that if you're not at the table, a lot of times you're on the menu. So I think having Westland at the table is important. And we learned so much from other mayors. I've learned a lot from the Conference of Mayors by being around big city mayors. And one of them that I've actually traveled and learned more about how they use data in their day-to-day operations is in Louisville. But with other cities like Chicago and Phoenix and some other cities, I emulate what they do and bring it down to a smaller level, because a lot of times they've taken the lead on things and they've already spent the money and made the mistakes, so we can kind of learn from them. And if you look at our website, it's kind of modeled after the bigger cities, and a lot of the initiatives that we do are modeled after bigger cities, brought down to the local level. But I'm proud that not only myself, but our city council members, our department heads, our police chief, fire chief, they're starting to be working their way up through their respective organizations. And Westland has leadership at a lot of different levels. These regional things are important because I want Westland to be a leader in not only Western Wayne County, but in Wayne County. And we're starting to see that is that that Westland's a lot of times the first city that does something, and that's what I like, and that's what keeps me motivated. And I know that you in the Senior Resource Department, you're the same way. You want to be the gold standard of senior resources, and I appreciate that, and that's why I give you that autonomy, because I know that we have similar visions and passions, and we want to be the best. We want to try to help as many people as we can.
Well, thank you for that. Yes, I do want to be the best, and we've done things and have been leaders as far as senior centers go, but the fact that I answer directly to you and not to Parks and Recreation has made it a little bit different, because that has been where my expertise is, and I'm able to use that. But as far as leadership goes and wanting to be the best, this is what I've noticed about you and what you've done. You always have projects. It's not a lot of people who are very successful in what they do can rest on their laurels and kind of skate a little bit. You are not that person. And every time, new things are coming up and we're jumping into this and jumping into that. And it's like there is no skating period. You're always looking to move the city forward. And even after so many years, that's still something that you're passionate about. And I can see the changes. People don't always know that, and that's why, we're doing this show. You said we went from Central City Park and flooding, and I remember going up at senior housing, 12 flights of stairs to take water, and all these, and then COVID, and you organizing all the things with Wayne County, and then having a task force, and you address things right away, but you're always moving to not just handle a crisis, but do great things in the city at the same time. So I really respect that. I'm curious a little bit about, I know what your work ethic is, okay? What do you expect of your department heads, and what do you look at? What kind of characteristics do you look for?
Well, I look for people that are self-motivated, and I look for, early on in my tenure, I think I hired a lot of people that I thought would be good at their positions, and I've learned is that doesn't always work. You got to have people that have experience, or they have a lot of upside. And so I like talented people. Early on I used to say I expected to be 24/7, and my wife keeps saying that's not fair. You can't expect everybody. Just because you're a nut doesn't mean everybody that works for you has to be a nut. But I like people that the city is a 24-hour-a-day operation, 7 days a week. It never stops, and things happen, Barb, and things happen, and we can't expect them to only happen during business hours. Mm-hmm. Our emergency manager, the fire chief, would tell me everything happens on the weekend.
Right. Police
Ramsey,
might tell
the
you that as
DPS
well.
director, would say everything happens on the weekend. I got to bring everybody back in on overtime. But I like people that are responsive. That when something hits, I want to be able to reach out to you and reach out to police chief, fire chief, whatever the case may be. And we've figured out everybody communicates different, and some people I can shoot a text, some people I call, some people, we have other means. But I like people that are responsive, and people that take care of business. And I want people that work for me to, when they're dealing with a resident, early on I had to say, if that person calls me, you know what I'm going to tell them. We're going to be calling you back anyway. So now I want our department heads to know that this is the way the mayor likes things done. So you don't have to call the mayor's office. When you call us, we're going to take care of it. And that's what I like. And I like people that get things done. People like their emails responded to, their phone messages responded to. And a lot of times people, they just want to know, if you say you're going to do something, when are you going to do it? So it's all about customer service. I learned that in my business. When you said that we don't rest on our laurels, I used to drive my dad crazy when I was younger, when I worked for my dad, because when things were going good, I was always wanting to change things, and he'd say, things are going good, be patient. And I kept saying, well, the status quo is boring as heck. And so I'd credit that to being a John Glenn Rocket. People say, how come you're ambitious? And I say, well, because I'm a John Glenn Rocket. That's what they taught us, to be ambitious. So I like to keep things working. I like to manage a lot of different things at a time. And I think that's, when you're a full-time mayor, you have to be able to handle a lot of different things. Mm-hmm. And you have to be able to handle criticism, and some of it is deserved, and some of it's not deserved. But you got to be able to handle that and continue to perform at a high level and get things done. Because at the end of the day, it all comes down to results. People want to see results, and I think people are disillusioned with politicians that make a lot of promises. At the end of the day, people just want to see results, and that's what I love about being mayor of Westland, is that we can get things done. We get things done every single day, and that's what makes me feel good going home at night.
A lot of things done every day. We
Absolutely.
Do. It never fails to surprise me. It doesn't shock me, but there are things, we get phone calls that I would never think about calling the city about. But when I think about that, and I thought, I can't believe somebody called for that. But what that tells me, and what it's told me over a period of time, is that when people are frustrated and they've made phone calls, one thing I hate is to be calling for something, well, we can't help you here, let me give you another number, and you call there and they give you another number. And so when people call, they're probably frustrated, and they call them. I've worked and filled in at the mayor's office on occasion, and it surprises me sometimes, but then I think, that's really a good thing, that when you're frustrated and don't know where else to go, we may not be able to solve your problem, but it won't be for a lack of trying. And if we can't solve it, we'll try to get you to somebody who can. So that says a lot to me about how much residents have faith in the leadership. And I think right now, where some people feel there's a total lack of leadership nationally, I think feeling in your hometown that your mayor is going to be there and that you can call, and no matter what it is, his staff, somebody will try to help you. And I think that says a lot about what our residents feel about your office or my office and the people who work here.
Well, thank you. And we have both Shannon and Jackie that work in my office. I mean, they spend the day on the telephone, and
They do.
Every call is different, and that's not for everybody, because almost every call it's totally different than the one before it. They have to be very patient, and a lot of times the people that are calling are frustrated. Mm-hmm. A lot of times they're just looking for information, but a lot of times they're frustrated. And one of the things that's nice about our new city hall is that we have so many of the different departments under one roof that when in the old days we'd have to transfer you to another building, and we hope that once you got transferred that they took care of you. Now a lot of times we'll say we'll call you back, we get up and we can walk down to the department and get to the bottom of something relatively quick. But we always encourage people, whenever they have a question or an issue or a problem, to call our office, and people take us up on that.
Well, the one thing I really love about your office, and I try to be the same way, is sometimes people just want to tell you what their problem. They want you to listen and pay attention. And some people are so busy, they say, yes, well, let me give you. It's easier to give somebody another number, to sit there for 20 minutes and listen to somebody be upset and angry. You really have to care about people to want to do that. And I know that the girls in your office do that on a regular basis. Every day people call, and like you said, that frustration, they want somebody to hear them. And I think it's important that we do that. I have a question for you. What made you decide to run for public office? I mean, is this something that you thought about kind of casually along the way, or how did that happen?
I get that asked a lot, especially when we get into the schools and start talking with the students. I remember going back as far as, I think, 5th grade. I went to Walker Elementary, now it's called Walker Winter Elementary, and I ran for student council president, and I think I was on the student council in 5th and 6th grade, and then I just kind of took off from there. But I remember with my dad. My dad was a business owner in Wayne, and he periodically would have to go to the planning commission meetings and the city council meetings in Wayne for his business, and I used to tag along with them, and I was just fascinated by it. I would watch the planning director talk and the commissioners interact, and with the city council members and the city manager. So I think I just kind of had that little bit of a gene in me, and so when I first started off in Westland, I was appointed to the planning commission, and I loved it. I was on it for 2 years, and then decided to run for city council. And then once I got involved, it just grew from there. It wasn't something that I planned on doing forever, and I probably didn't think I'd be mayor for as long as I am. But I like it. It's something that I think there's value in having good local government. I've been trying to encourage other people to get involved with local government, because not only for Westland but other cities, it's hard to find and attract good talent. And we're trying to build up our staff, and we're also trying to encourage people, like I said, to live in our city, to work in our city, and so it's something that I've enjoyed. And it's not something that when I was a kid, if you asked me what I wanted to be, I probably would have said I wanted to play for the Detroit Tigers or the Red Wings, or be a policeman or a fireman. But at some point, it's something that I enjoyed, and it feels good that I think we've made progress.
Well, I have a question. You are in an elected position, and so is the city council. How important is it, and how often do you have to work directly with our city council?
Well, I think a lot of people see the city council meetings and they think that that's it, but there's a lot that goes into it. A lot of it that I've learned, by being on the city council, is I learned that the city council likes communication. They like to know what's going on, not necessarily what's just going to be on the agenda at the next meeting, but what's going on in the city. And while the city council is the legislative branch of the government, they get calls too, and they visit residents, and there's issues, and so they want to know what's going on. So communication is big. A lot of times, by the time something gets on a city council agenda, some people might be surprised that, boy, that's a pretty big thing, and it's on the consent agenda. But at the end of the day, a lot of times there's been a lot of work that went into it. There's been a lot of study sessions, and we work up to the point where council may eventually adopt something or vote on it. But it all comes down to the communication, and I communicate with the council leadership, the city council president and the pro tem, and they in turn take a lot of the communications we share with them, and they spread it out to city council. But I've got a great working relationship with city council, and it's there's a push and pull there, and I think I've been able to manage through that. So it's been a good relationship, and I appreciate the work that our city council does.
Yes. Function, like you said in City Hall, this is really interesting, the way that it functions from the top to the bottom as far as leadership goes and staff meetings. And, for me, looking at the way that our city functions, I see a big difference between the way our city functions and some of the other cities that are not doing so well. I really do attribute that to leadership and, really what goes on, tackling that from the very beginning with this COVID thing. And that was something really big in the city as far as nobody really knew where the information, we do know a little bit more now than we did a year ago, but we certainly are still moving forward, or we still have our task force and moving ahead with that. Is there anything that you can tell people as far as moving forward? I know we're on top of it. I just talked to the chief. But where do we get our information from?
So, well, first of all, we get a lot of information, and we try to sort through it and try to figure out what is the most important. On a daily basis, I get updates from the Wayne County Health Department. I get updates from the governor's office, and through some recent changes in the White House, we're getting weekly updates from the White House as well. So I try to filter that through our emergency manager. We filter that through Greg Welcomeback here at WLND, and he tries to push that into our different social media. So we're always trying to get the latest information out. But outside of that, as far as where we're at, there's a lot of conversations now about booster shots.
Right.
And one of the things that we're probably going to do with our task force is start reaching out to some of the people. Westland helped vaccinate over 10,000 people, and I know that there's a lot more people than that in Westland, and a lot of them work through their health department or their health providers. But our vaccination team, set up over 10,000 appointments. In the beginning, it was a little bumpy, but we learned quick, and I think we really settled into a routine. We developed a great partnership with Kroger Pharmacies. We're in touch with them about how do we handle the booster shots and the variants and stuff. So a lot of the viewers may receive a phone call from our vaccination team to start judging interest as we get into the booster shots. And with Kroger's, we're going to try to figure out what's the interest level so we can understand, if there's a big push for it, we may have to open up the ice arena again. If it's a smaller push, maybe we can handle it here at City Hall. Or if it's going to be a trickle, which we're seeing right now, maybe we handle that at the fire department. So it's a work in progress, and with the students back in school now, I think there's going to be a big push for these booster shots, and Westland's going to be prepared to deliver those either through our partnership with Kroger's or with the Wayne County Health Department.
One thing I loved about that is that when we were calling residents and we were getting so many calls, and people eventually put their name on lists, and it kind of went through a transformation. But what I really loved was that it was important to you that we call people and talk to people about that and discuss that on the phone, and putting people at ease about that was very important, because information was coming out. People didn't know what was up from down, but it was really a good time for us to have an opportunity to connect with our residents. And that's one thing that I really liked, and we may end up doing that again as we go along, but that's not something that you ever shied away from, and I think they really appreciated that.
Yeah, that communication was key, especially during the pandemic, because a lot of times the only communication that our residents were getting were depending on which TV station they watch, and it was very partisan, and they didn't know what to believe. So I like to think that at the local level we can give you the best information, and like I said, just like you said, Barb, just interacting with our residents, especially our homebound residents and our senior residents and those with disabilities. They really like the fact that somebody called and checked up on them and offered a lifeline that, hey, if you have some problems, let us know.
Well, that's one thing that I've loved. You cared about the residents the first day of our staff meeting, and that's never changed. So I want to thank you for that. Thank you for your leadership, and thank you for being on my show today. I think this will educate people a little bit more about what you do in the city.
All right, Barb. Well, I appreciate being on the show, and I appreciate the effort that you put into your position, and another great show.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. And thank you, friends in the viewing audience, for being with us today.